Ishmael Chapter 9, sections 15, 16, and 17. But I'm afraid I have another question. There's no need to apologize for it. That's what you're here for. Okay, my question is, how does Eve figure into all this? Her name means what? According to the notes, it means life. Not woman? No, not according to the notes. With this name, the authors of the story have made it clear that Adam's temptation wasn't sex or lust or uxoriousness. Adam was tempted by life. I don't get it. Consider, 100 men and 1 woman does not spell 100 babies, but 1 man and 100 women does. So, I'm pointing out that, in terms of population expansion, men and women have markedly different roles. They're by no means equal in this regard. Okay, but I still don't get it. I'm trying to put you in the frame of mind of a non-agricultural people, a people for whom population control is always a critical problem. Let me put it baldly. A band of herders that consists of 50 men and 1 woman is in no danger of experiencing a population explosion. But a band that consists of 1 man and 50 women is in big trouble. People being people, that band of 51 herders is going to be a band of 100 in no time at all. True, but I'm afraid I still don't see how this relates to the story of Genesis. Be patient. Let's go back to the authors of this story, a herding people being pushed into the desert by agriculturalists from the north. Why were their brothers from the north pushing? They wanted to put the herders' land under cultivation. Yes, but why? Ah, I see. They were increasing food production to support an expanded population. Of course. Now you're ready to do some more reconstruction. You can see that these tillers of the soil have no sense of restraint when it comes to expansion. They don't control their population. When there isn't enough food to go around, they just put some more land under cultivation. True. So, whom do these people say yes to? Yes, I think I see it, as in a glass, darkly. Think of it this way. The Semites, the most non-agricultural peoples, had to be wary of becoming overbalanced between the sexes. Having too many men didn't threaten the stability of the population, but having too many women definitely did. You see that? Yes. But what the Semites observed in their brothers from the north was that it didn't matter to them. If their populations go out of hand, they didn't worry. They just put more land under cultivation. Yes, I see that. Or try it this way. Adam and Eve spent 3 million years in the garden, living on the bounty of the gods, and their growth was very modest. In the Lever lifestyle, this is the way it has to be. Like Levers everywhere, they had no need to exercise the gods' prerogative of deciding who shall live and who shall die. But when Eve presented Apple with this knowledge, he said, yes, I see with this, we no longer need to depend on the bounty of the gods. With the matter of who shall live and who shall die in our own hands, we can create a bounty of life that will exist for us alone. And this means that I can say yes to life and grow without limit. What you should understand is that saying yes to life and accepting the knowledge of good and evil are merely different aspects of a single act. And this is the way the story is told in Genesis. Yes, it's subtle, but I think I see it. When Adam accepted the fruit of that tree, he succumbed to the temptation to live without limit. And so the person who offered him the fruit is named Life. Ishmael nodded. Whenever a taker couple talks about how wonderful it would be to have a big family, they're reenacting the scene beside the tree of knowledge of good and evil. They're saying to themselves, of course it's all right to apportion life on this planet as we please. Why stop at 4 kids or 6? We can have 15 if we like. All we have to do is plow under another few hundred acres of rainforest, and who cares if a dozen or other species disappear as a result? There was still something that I hadn't quite fit together, but I couldn't quite figure out how to articulate it. Ishmael told me to take my time. After I'd sweated over it for a few minutes, he said, don't expect to be able to work it all out in terms of your present knowledge of the world. The Semites at this time were completely isolated on the Arabian Peninsula, cut off from all directions from by either the sea or by the people of Cain. For all they knew, they and their brothers to the north were literally the whole race of man, the only people on earth. Certainly that's the way they saw the story. They couldn't possibly have known that it was only in the little corner of the world that Adam had eaten at the God's tree. Couldn't possibly have known that the Fertile Crescent was only one of many places where agriculture had begun. Couldn't possibly have known that there were still people of the fall all over the world living the way Adam and Eve lived before the fall. True, I said. I was trying to make it fit with all the information we have, and that obviously doesn't. That obviously won't work. I think it's safe to say that the story of Adam's fall is by far the best known story in the world. At least in the West, I said. Oh, it's well known in the East as well, having been carried into every corner of the world by Christian missionaries. It has a powerful attraction for takers everywhere. Yes. Why is that so? I guess because it purports to explain what went wrong here. What did go wrong? How do people understand the story? Adam, the first man, ate the fruit of the forbidden trees. And what is it to understand? What is it understood to mean? Frankly, I don't know. I've never heard an explanation that made any sense. And the knowledge of good and evil? Again, I've never heard an explanation that made any sense. I think the way people understand it, the gods wanted to test Adam's obedience by forbidding him something, and it didn't much matter what it was. And that's what the fall essentially was, an act of disobedience. Nothing really to do with the knowledge of good and evil. No, but then I suppose there are people who think that the knowledge of good and evil is just a symbol of, I don't know exactly what. They think of the fall as a fall from innocence. Innocence in this context presumably being a synonym for blissful ignorance. Yes, it's something like this. Man was innocent until he discovered the difference between good and evil. When he was no longer innocent of that knowledge, he became a fallen creature. I'm afraid that means nothing at all to me. To me either, actually. All the same, if you read it from another point of view, the story does explain exactly what went wrong here, doesn't it? Yes. But the people of your culture have never been able to understand the explanation because they've always assumed that it was formulated by people just like them. People who took it for granted that the world was made for man and that man was made to conquer and rule it. People for whom the sweetest knowledge in the world is the knowledge of good and evil. People who consider tilling the soil the only noble and human way to live. Reading the story as if it had been authored by someone with their own point of view, they didn't stand a chance of understanding it. That's right. But when it's read another way, the explanation makes perfectly good sense. Man can never have the wisdom of the God that God's used to rule the world. And if he tries to preempt that wisdom, the result won't be enlightenment, it'll be death. Yes, I said, I have no doubt about that. That's what the story means. Adam wasn't the progenitor of our race. He was the progenitor of our culture. This is why he's always been a figure of such importance to you. Even though the story itself made no real sense to you, you could identify with Adam as its protagonist. From the beginning, you recognized him as one of your own.